The grease-stained envelope. The knock came just as Darius was about to close up for the night. It was a quiet Tuesday, nearly 9:30 p.m. The street outside his garage was dark, the neon flickering from the liquor store across the road, the only light left on this side of town. He was tired, 12 hours of oil, rust, fumes, and customers who only saw a pair of black hands, not the man behind them. He grabbed the wrench from the bench just in case and walked to the rolling shutter. The knock came again. Not loud, but heavy, like someone knocking with a fist wrapped in steel. Darius raised the shutter halfway. 7 men stood outside, lined up like soldiers. Leather vests, heavy boots, arms tattooed with skulls, crosses, flames, and a familiar insignia, a raven with blood dripping from its wings. The Blood Ravens, MC. His jaw tightened. In front of them was a huge man, bald, thick-bearded, maybe 6'5". His vest said, Ruger, Vice President. Behind them were Harleys, not the ones weekend riders pose on, but real growling beasts. Chrome dull with dirt, engines still hot from a long ride. Darius didn't blink. You're Darius? Ruger asked, voice like a growl. Yeah. You the one fixed up that Challenger a few weeks ago? Blue one with the busted camshaft? Darius nodded once. That was me. Ruger gave a tight smile. You're good. The guy next to him, red hair, pockmarked face, snorted. Or he's just the only one dumb enough to be open after hours. Darius didn't laugh. What do you need? He asked. Ruger jerked, his thumb behind him. A black Harley with a shredded belt and oil dripping from the underside stood at the curb. Tow guy dropped it here. It's one of ours. Fix it. We'll wait. Darius glanced at the bike. Busted belt. Bent clutch lever. Rear wheel misaligned. It wasn't a quick job. And they didn't ask if he could fix it, only that he would. He motioned them in. As he rolled the bike inside, he noticed the name painted faintly on the gas tank in fading white. Bobby Ray. The name scraped something deep in his memory. But he pushed it down. No time to think. He pulled on his gloves and got to work. The garage fell quiet except for the clicks of tools and the faint hum of an old radio in the corner. The bikers didn't talk. They just stood in the shadows, watching. It felt like fixing a bomb, while the people who planted it watched with the timer running. Then, as he moved the saddlebag to realign the belt guard, something caught his eye. A patch stitched on the side, Rippy Bobby Ray, July 17th. Darius's hand froze, July 17th. His heart started pounding. That was the day his younger brother Jamal was stabbed to death in a bar just off the freeway. No witnesses, no leads. The case had gone cold. Darius had never been able to let it go. And now, this name, this date, sitting here on a Blood Raven's bike. He swallowed hard and kept working, but something had shifted inside him. 45 minutes later, he stepped back, oil-smudged and sweating. She's done, he said. Ruger walked forward slowly, inspecting the bike. Then he turned back and reached into his vest. He pulled out a thin, grease-stained envelope and held it out to Darius. No charge, Ruger said. Darius frowned. What? You helped one of ours. We helped back. That didn't make sense. Biker gangs didn't give out gifts. They collected debts. But Darius took the envelope anyway. His fingers were shaking as he opened it. Inside was no cash. Just 3 things. A photo of Jamal, lying on the sticky floor of that bar, eyes open, blood under him. A photo of a man, heavy, bearded, holding a bloody knife. A folded paper with 7 words written in black marker. Fix this next, or you're next. Darius's hands went numb. He looked up. But the bikers were already gone. No engines, no footsteps, just silence. His legs suddenly felt heavy. He stumbled back against the workbench and stared at the photos again. The man in the second picture. He looked familiar. Then it hit him. That was Ruger, the same man who just handed him the envelope. He dropped the photos on the counter, breath shallow. 100 thoughts raced through his head, none of them making sense. Why would the guy who killed Jamal hand him proof? Was it a warning, a trap, or something worse? And why now, after 3 years? Then the old rotary phone on the wall rang. It hadn't rung in 2 years. He stared at it. Once, twice, 3 times. Then he picked up. The voice on the other end was slow, southern, and cold. We know who you are. And now you know too. Keep your mouth shut, or your mother's next. Click. The line went dead. Darius stood frozen, heart hammering, the phone still in his hand. He hadn't spoken to anyone about Jamal's case in years. Not even his mother, who still lit a candle every week for her good boy who died wrong. Suddenly he felt watched, not just by memories, but by eyes behind walls. He slowly turned the garage lights off and stepped outside. The street was quiet, except for one thing. At the far end of the block, a single Harley engine roared to life and then went dark again, like a threat in the shape of a sound. The man with the scar Darius didn't sleep that night. He sat in his living room, staring at the 2 photos and the threatening note from Ruger. The image of his brother, lifeless, blood pooled around him, clung to the edges of his vision, no matter how hard he tried to blink it away. The photo of Ruger holding the knife. It wasn't just proof, it was bait, but for what? By sunrise, Darius had made one decision. He wasn't going to run. If they wanted to threaten him, let them. He'd been through worse. Growing up black in South Central, having to raise Jamal. After their father disappeared, watching his mother work 2 jobs while cancer crept through her bones, he'd survived all of it. What scared him now wasn't dying. It was not knowing the truth. That morning, he walked into the garage as usual, opened the shutter, and went about his work like nothing had changed. But inside, he was unraveling. His eyes kept shifting to the door, waiting for another knock, another message. By noon, the answer came, just not the way he expected. A man walked in, mid-50s, salt and pepper hair, denim jacket, a limp in. His left leg, there was something off about his energy, like he'd been through a storm and didn't fully come back. You, Darius? Darius looked up from under the hood of a Honda. Depends who's asking. The man didn't smile. Names? Troy. I rode with the Blood Ravens. A long time ago. Darius wiped his hands and stepped out. Yeah? And? Troy pulled something from his jacket, a folded newspaper article. He handed it over. Darius unfolded it. The headline hit him like a punch. Bar fight leaves 1 dead. Police seek witnesses. July 18th, 3 years ago. Underneath was a blurry photo of the crime scene. It was Jamal's death. Troy spoke, voice low. I was there that night. I saw what happened. Your brother didn't die by accident. It was a setup. Darius froze. Troy glanced around and stepped closer. Listen, I don't have much time. I left the club years ago, but I still hear things. Ruger didn't kill Jamal because of a fight. He killed him because Jamal saw something he shouldn't have. What do you mean? Troy looked Darius in the eyes. There was a shipment, guns, dirty money, someone took photos. Jamal worked security at the bar. Ruger thought it was him. But it wasn't, Darius said, heart pounding. No. Jamal was clean, but by the time they figured that out, it was too late. Darius clenched his fists. Why are you telling me this now? Troy sighed. Because I owe Jamal. He once stopped Ruger from beating a kid half to death over a bar tab. Your brother had guts. He didn't deserve to die. Darius looked down at the newspaper again. You said it was a setup. So who really took the photos? Troy hesitated. Her name's Natalie. She was a waitress at the bar. Jamal knew her. Some say they were close. Darius's heart twisted. He never told me, probably to protect her. Ruger thinks she vanished, but I heard she's living upstate under a new name. Darius narrowed his eyes. And where exactly? Troy stepped back. You didn't hear it from me. He scribbled a name and address on a napkin, shoved it into Darius's hand, and walked out of the garage without another word. That night, Darius drove 3 hours north to a small town called Red Ridge. Quiet, wooded, looked like the kind of place people went to disappear. He parked outside a small diner near the woods. There she was, mid-30s, curly hair tied in a bun, worn out. Apron, faded smile, Natalie. He waited until she finished her shift, then followed her out to her car, heart thudding, hands sweating. "Hey," he called out softly. She spun around, keys between her fingers like a weapon. "It's okay. I'm Jamal's brother." The color drained from her face. She didn't say anything for a long time. Then finally she whispered, "You shouldn't be here. I just want to know the truth," Darius said, "about what happened that night." She hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Come with me." Inside her tiny cabin, Darius sat on the couch while she made tea, hands shaking the whole time. "I was the one who took the photos," she confessed. "Ruger and his crew were using the bar for deals, weapons, coke. Jamal caught wind of it and warned me to get out. But you didn't," Darius said. "I tried. The night Ruger found out, he came to the bar. He was drunk, furious. Jamal tried to calm him down, but Ruger pulled the knife without warning. Tears slipped down her cheek. I ran. I didn't even stay for the police. I changed my name, moved here, and never looked back." Darius leaned forward. "You still have the photos?" She walked to a drawer and pulled out a flash drive. "It's all here. Dates, times, faces, everything." He took the drive, hands trembling. This could finally put Ruger away. She nodded. "But if you try, they'll come for you too." "I'm not afraid." Natalie looked at him. "You should be. These men don't kill once. They clean up." Back at his apartment that night, Darius loaded the flash drive onto his laptop. She wasn't lying. Hundreds of images, cash exchanges, crates marked with military codes, bikers shaking hands with men in suits, and one clear shot of Ruger, holding a rifle, grinning like a demon. He leaned back in his chair, mind racing. He had the proof. He had a witness. He had motive. But then he remembered the note. "Fix this next, or you're next." They weren't threatening him because he didn't know. They were forcing him to act, but on their terms. Suddenly there was a noise behind him, a creak. He turned, heart leaping, but no one was there. Still, the hairs on the back of his neck stood up. He walked to the window, parked across the street. A black Harley. No rider in sight, just a silent threat, watching, waiting. The next morning, Darius called a contact, an old friend named Malik who worked in local news. "I've got something that can blow the blood ravens wide open," he said. "But I need to meet in person." They agreed to meet that night. At 9:15 p.m., Darius pulled into Malik's office lot. But Malik never showed. Darius tried calling. No answer. Then, headlights flooded the lot behind him. A black SUV pulled. In fast, two men got out, both in dark jackets, faces hard. Darius belled. One of them asked, "Who's asking?" The man held up a badge. "ATF, we need you to come with us, now." Darius's blood went cold. "Why?" The second agent stepped forward. "Because someone just tried to leak illegal surveillance files, and your name's all over it." Darius's mind raced. "What the hell are you talking about?" "Your laptop," the first agent said. "The flash drive. It's been flagged. Homeland Security has eyes on it." Darius shook his head. "No, you don't understand. It's evidence. I'm trying to..." The agent pulled out a pair of cuffs. "Save it for your lawyer." As the cuffs clicked shut around his wrists, Darius glanced to the shadows of the lot. In the far corner, lit by the SUV's rear light, was Ruger, smiling, helmet in one hand. Watching, then he turned, mounted a Harley, and rode off into the night. Blood in the system. Darius had never been arrested before. And yet here he was, wrists cuffed behind his back, shoved into a cold government. SUV, surrounded by 2 ATF agents who weren't listening to a word he said. "I was trying to do the right thing," he repeated. The flash drives, it's evidence. My brother was murdered. Yeah, the agent in the passenger seat muttered. And 100 other people say that every week. No, you don't understand. Ruger, the driver cut him off. We know who Ruger is, Mr. Bell. We've had files on the Blood Ravens for years. That's exactly why your sudden appearance with evidence is interesting. They pulled into a small federal holding center. Not jail, not yet, but close enough to feel like the air was laced with judgment. Inside, they threw Darius in a windowless room. Steel table, single flickering bulb, camera in the corner. He waited for nearly an hour before someone entered. Not one of the agents from earlier. This one was different. White suit, gold ring, calm smile. Mr. Bell, he said, closing the door softly. My name is Agent Crowley. Darius raised his chin. You gonna listen, or do I need a lawyer first? Crowley sat down, folded his hands. Actually, I want to listen. You're not under arrest yet, but you've attracted attention. Darius stared at him. What do you want from me? Crowley leaned forward. Let me tell you what I think is happening. Your brother Jamal stumbled onto something the Blood Ravens didn't want getting out. Ruger silenced him. Now years later you find a flash drive and try to leak it, except the drive was already flagged by someone before you even opened it. Darius blinked. What? That's right, Crowley said. That flash drive wasn't just hiding in a waitress's drawer for years. It was bait, planted, tagged, waiting. Darius's pulse quickened. But Natalie might not be who you think she is. Crowley tapped the table. I believe Ruger wants you to think you're holding something powerful, but the second you go public, the system collapses on you. Darius's voice dropped. So what? He's working with the feds. Crowley didn't answer, but his eyes did. There was something there. Fear, maybe. Listen, Darius, Crowley said. There are people in law enforcement, in courts, even in politics, who owe the Ravens favors, and some who are the Ravens. Darius felt his breath catch. Then why are you talking to me? Crowley smiled faintly. Because not all of us are bought. He slid a card across the table. You want to survive this? Burn that flash drive. Go back to your garage, live your life, and forget your brother. Darius stared at the card, didn't touch it. Or, Crowley's smile vanished. Or you'll be arrested for terrorism, for data tampering, or something worse. He stood. Your move, Mr. Bell. That night, Darius was released. No charges filed, but no peace either. He walked the long road home, hands stuffed in his jacket, eyes darting behind him every few blocks. When he reached his apartment, the door was open. He hadn't left it that way. He stepped inside slowly. Everything looked untouched, until he entered the bedroom. On the bed lay the flash drive, snapped in half, and beside it a single photo of Natalie, tied to a chair, eyes swollen, mouth gagged. On the back, in ink, Still think you're the hero? Darius sank to his knees. This wasn't a game anymore. This wasn't about justice or closure. This was a war, and they were dragging innocent people into it. He grabbed his phone and called the only person left he could trust. Uncle Reggie. Reggie wasn't blood, not technically, but he raised Jamal and Darius after their mother passed. He owned an old boxing gym on the edge of the city and knew how to keep quiet. "You got the devil on your back," Reggie said when Darius arrived, "and he's not letting go easy." Darius showed him everything, the broken drive, the photo, even the federal card Crowley had left. Reggie listened without blinking, then nodded. "You can't fight this clean, boy. They already dirtied the field. You want justice?" "I do." "Then you need to play the long game." Reggie stood, walked to the back room, and came out with a small metal box. Inside were photos, documents, ledgers. Darius frowned. "What's this?" "Insurance," Reggie said. From a long time ago, when I used to fix bikes for the Ravens. Ruger and we were close until he got greedy, thought I was a rat. Darius's eyes widened. Why didn't you go to the cops? Reggie laughed darkly. Cops? Boy, I trained Ruger's enforcer. You think a badge is protection? But this could bring him down. Reggie handed over the box. Only if you're smart and fast. The next 48 hours were chaos. Darius used the documents to trace payment routes, shell companies Ruger used to funnel money. He found bank accounts, payoffs to city officials, even a judge who once tossed out a double murder case tied to the Ravens. But none of it was enough until he found the name, Marcus Vale, a clean-suited accountant who handled Ruger's taxes and had a secret addiction to gambling. Darius saw the thread and decided to pull it. He showed up at the casino Marcus frequented, watched him lose $3,000 in under 20 minutes. When Marcus stepped out for air, Darius followed him into the alley. You're in deep, Darius said. Stepping from the shadows, Marcus jumped. Who? Someone who can make your debt disappear, Marcus blinked. What? Who are you? The man holding your freedom. Darius pulled out a folder. Inside, bank records, false tax filings, a signed check from Ruger's business account. Marcus went pale. Where did you get this? Doesn't matter. What matters is what you do next. Darius leaned in. You testify. You give me the real ledgers. You help me bury Ruger. Marcus backed away. You're crazy. He'll kill me. Not if we move first. The plan came together fast. Darius called Agent Crowley. Again. You told me to walk away. I won't. But I'll make you a deal. Crowley was silent. Then, go on. I give you Ruger's financial trail, complete, provable. In exchange, you protect the witness. You're sure about this? Darius's voice hardened. He killed my brother. He beat a woman half. To death. He tried to erase me. I'm done being scared. A pause. Then Crowley said, all right, one shot. You bring the proof. We bring the cuffs. But Ruger wasn't done playing. The night before the exchange, Darius's garage was set on fire. Everything gone. Photos, tools, records, even the photo of Jamal from their mother's shelf. Gone. Ashes. That same night, Reggie was found unconscious. In his gym. A note pinned to his chest. Still want to be the hero. Darius stood over Reggie's hospital bed. His hands trembled, but his voice was steel. This ends now? He turned to Marcus. Tomorrow we meet Crowley, and you better have the books. Marcus nodded, but his eyes were haunted, like a man walking into his own grave. The exchange, the courthouse steps were eerily quiet. Darius stood outside, his hoodie pulled tight, eyes scanning the street. The wind stung his face, but it wasn't the cold that sent shivers through him. It was the feeling that he was being watched. Marcus Vale hadn't shown up yet, and they were 10 minutes past the meeting time. Inside, Agent Crowley paced like a caged wolf. Where is he? He muttered. Darius clenched his fists. He said he'd come. He was scared, but he promised. Crowley's jaw tightened. Scared men are dangerous, especially when they know too much. Suddenly, a black car screeched to a stop across the street. The back door flew open. Marcus stumbled out, blood on his collar, panic in his eyes, clutching a duffel bag to his chest. Go! Darius shouted, running to grab him as gunshots cracked through the air. Crowley and 2 other agents drew weapons, shielding both men as they dove behind a concrete pillar. Glass shattered, tires squealed. The shooter, a man in a leather cut with the Blood Ravens logo, peeled off down the block on a black Ducati. Marcus collapsed, shaking. They knew I was flipping. They came to my house. Last night. Crowley pulled the bag from his hands and opened it. Inside, binders, ledgers, USB drives. Is it all here? He asked. Marcus nodded frantically. Everything. Years of payments, fake names, offshore accounts, bribes, blackmail. Darius stared at him. You good to testify? Marcus looked at him, terrified, defeated, but nodded again. I'm tired of living afraid. Crowley signaled his team. "Let's move. You two are coming with us. Until trial, you're under federal protection." 2 weeks later, the courtroom buzzed like a disturbed beehive. Reporters packed the benches. Camera crews huddled outside. This was the biggest gang-related indictment in city history. Over 24 blood ravens had been arrested, but only one mattered. Ruger. He sat in his orange jumpsuit like a king stripped of his throne. Still smug, still staring down everyone like they were ants beneath his boots. Darius sat behind the prosecution table, stone-faced. Marcus, pale but upright, took the witness stand. Crowley led the questioning. "Mr. Vale, what was your role in the Blood Ravens operation?" "I was their financial handler," Marcus said. "I laundered money through front businesses. I filed fake tax documents. I kept their ledgers off the grid." "And did you do this willingly?" "At first, yes. But then threats started. Ruger made sure I knew I couldn't walk away." Crowley held up a sheet of paper. "Is this one of the original ledgers?" "Yes. And the signature at the bottom. Ruger's, that's his handwriting." A gasp rippled through the courtroom. Ruger just smiled. Cross-examination was brutal. Ruger's defense attorney tore into Marcus's past, his gambling, his fraud, his lies, but Marcus held firm. When it was over, the judge recessed for the day. Outside the courtroom, Darius met Marcus in the hallway. "You did good," he said. Marcus shook his head. "You think this'll be enough?" Darius nodded. "We keep showing the truth, brick by brick. Eventually, it's too much to ignore." But just then, Crowley's assistant rushed over. "We've got a problem." That night, the news broke. The primary judge assigned to the Ruger case had been found dead, heart attack, they said. But Crowley wasn't convinced. Judge Henley was healthy, he said, slamming his office door shut. "This isn't coincidence. This is sabotage." Darius paced the room. "What now?" "They'll delay the trial," Crowley said. "They'll move it to another district. It buys Ruger time, maybe even a mistrial if his lawyers push hard enough." Marcus panicked. "You promised you'd protect me." "We are," Crowley said, "but someone's leaking our moves. We're being watched from the inside." Darius turned to him. "Then go outside the system." Crowley raised an eyebrow. "You have something in mind. I need 24 hours. Just don't move Ruger yet, and keep Marcus alive." Crowley nodded slowly. "One day. That's all I can give you." That night, Darius went back to the ruins of his garage, charred, dead, still smoldering in parts. He walked through what was left of his old life. His dreams, his memories, burned to the ground by one man's thirst for control. And there, under a scorched steel beam, he found something, Jamal's old toolbox, blackened by fire, but intact. Inside, one thing had survived, a small pocket recorder, the kind his brother used when he was gathering stories for his podcast. Darius clicked play. At first, just static. Then Jamal's voice. "They're meeting Thursday." Same. "Warehouse on Ash Street." Ruger's voice. "It always gives him away. If anything happens to me, I hope someone finds this." Darius froze. He had something better than ledgers now. He had Jamal's voice. The next day, Darius walked into Crowley's office, dropped the recorder on his desk, pressed play. As Ruger's voice echoed through the speakers, Crowley sat up straight. "Is this verified?" "It's real," Darius said. "My brother recorded it days before he was killed." Crowley turned to his assistant. "Get a tech team. We need this authenticated by morning." Then he looked at Darius. "You may have just saved this case." Trial day 2, a new judge took the bench. Young, sharp, not from the local circuit. A federal import. The courtroom was tense. Then the prosecution dropped the bombshell, Your Honor. Crowley said, "We'd like to enter into evidence an audio recording, the final voice memo from Jamal Bell, who was murdered 2 years ago. In this recording, you will hear Ruger openly discussing extortion, drug routes, and a planned hit." The judge allowed it. The room fell into a hush as the recording played, Jamal's voice, then Ruger's unmistakable growl. He squeals, he dies. Simple. Gasps. Murmurs. One juror covered her mouth. Ruger's smirk faded for the first time. When the tape ended, Darius stood, eyes locked on the man who'd stolen his brother, his shop, his peace. And for once, Ruger looked away. It took 6 hours of deliberation. When the jury returned, they read the verdict aloud, guilty on all counts. Racketeering, murder conspiracy, money laundering, extortion. Ruger's sentence, life without parole. The courtroom erupted. Reporters shouted, flashbulbs popped, but Darius just sat there, still, silent, letting it sink in. Outside the courthouse, Marcus turned to him. "You did it." Darius shook his head. "We did." Crowley approached. "You'll need protection for a while. There are still ravens out there." "I'm not hiding," Darius said. "I've lived scared too long." Crowley handed him an envelope. Inside, a check, federal compensation for damages to his garage, more than he expected. "Start fresh," Crowley said. "Rebuild." A month later, Darius reopened Bell Brothers Auto, same name, new location, better. Security. Natalie came by with a plate of cupcakes and a nervous smile. "Figured you earned something sweet," she said. He smiled. "Thanks for not giving up on me," she shrugged. "You saved me. I just returned the favor." As she turned to leave, Darius stopped her. "You ever need a job? We could use a good office manager," she grinned. "I'll think about it." That night, Darius stood alone in the new shop. Same walls, different man. He looked up at the photo of Jamal on the wall, the only thing he'd saved from the fire. "Got justice for you, bro," he whispered. "Not perfect, but real." He wiped his hands clean and got back to work. What Ruger left behind, it had been 3 weeks since Ruger was sentenced to life. The city felt different, lighter somehow. Bell Brothers Auto was slowly gaining attention again. Darius worked long hours, fixing engines, training 2 new hires, and staying out of trouble. Every time the doorbell chimed, he half expected a gang member to come for revenge. But so far, silence, until the package arrived, no sender. No return address, just his name, scribbled in black ink. Darius. He brought it into the shop, closed the door, and set it on the counter. Inside, a burner phone and a note. "If you're reading this, then I'm already gone. But you need to know. It's not over. Check the contacts. There's one name you won't expect." Darius stared at the note. Ruger. He powered on the phone. One contact was saved. Ghost. And one audio file. He pressed play. Ruger's voice crackled through. "You think I didn't plan for this? I knew Marcus would flip. Knew Crowley was watching. But there's always one move ahead. Always one rat in your camp." Darius. "Check. Your house, not the front, the attic. Look under the floorboards." Click. Darius's heart pounded. That night he climbed into his attic, flashlight trembling in his grip. He hadn't been up there in years. He crawled toward the far wall where a loose plank had always creaked underfoot. He pried it open. Inside, a black duffel bag. He pulled it out and froze. Guns, cash, a burner phone, and an FBI badge. His hands trembled as he pulled it closer. Agent photo. Name, Agent Noah Crowley. The world stopped. Darius stumbled back, shaking. He remembered every moment. Crowley pressuring Marcus to flip, rushing the trial, offering protection, handing him a check to rebuild. Had it all been a setup? He opened the burner. Only one message was saved, sent weeks ago. To Ghost. Trial proceeding. Jamal's file secured. Darius believes it's justice. Clean it up after conviction. Darius dropped the phone. Crowley had been working both sides. The next morning, Darius confronted Marcus at a quiet diner. Marcus looked exhausted. "You okay?" "No," Darius said. "We've been played." He slid the badge across the table. Marcus froze. "Crowley?" Ruger. "Didn't act alone. He was a pawn. There's someone bigger, someone feeding both ends. Marcus leaned in. Then whose ghost? I don't know, Darius whispered, but Ruger knew, and he tried to warn me. Marcus swallowed hard. Then we're not safe. You, me, anyone involved. Darius nodded slowly. This ain't about revenge anymore. That evening, Darius met Natalie in the garage office. He told her everything. She listened, jaw tightening. So Crowley used the system to cover for whoever really controls the Ravens. He nodded. And Jamal, he might have died because he found out. Natalie reached for his hand. What are you going to do? Darius exhaled. Finish it. That night, Darius sent the burner audio file to 5 reporters, 2 independent podcasters, and a cybercrime journalist known for exposing corruption. He knew he was burning the last bridge, but this time there would be no silence. Within 24 hours, the story exploded. FBI agent implicated in gang cover-up. Leaked tape shocks nation. Crowley vanished, gone. No resignation, no statement, just disappeared. But now, the world was watching. Weeks passed. Federal agents reopened dozens of cases. A task force was launched. Darius testified again, this time not just against gang members, but against corrupt law enforcement. It was risky. His name went viral, but so did the truth. And for the first time in years, Jamal's name meant something bigger than just a cold case. 1 year later, Bell Brothers Auto was booming. The walls were clean, tools sharp, clients steady. Natalie now ran the office. Marcus handled books, legally this time, and on the wall above the register hung a framed newspaper. Mechanic exposes FBI corruption. Justice for brother who tried to warn. The world. Below it, a quote Darius had picked out himself. Some engines stall, others roar back stronger. So do people. The final gear. It had been exactly 1 year since Ruger was convicted, and 6 months since Agent Crowley disappeared off the grid. Darius had done everything right. He told the truth. He rebuilt. He healed. But something still didn't sit right. Not with the way Jamal died. Not with the look in his brother's eyes the night before he vanished. A look Darius couldn't forget, like he knew something even worse was coming. And now new questions were emerging, because in one of the forensic reports just released by the reopened task force, the last call Jamal ever made was to someone named Anthony B. Lake. The name sounded familiar, too familiar, and when Darius asked Marcus to run a deep search through old city contracts and civic records, the truth hit him like a freight train. Anthony Bernard Lake, city councilman, Jamal's mentor. The same man who paid for Jamal's college courses. The same man who visited their house growing up. The same man who stood at his funeral and cried. Darius sat in silence for a long time. Then he drove to City Hall. Councilman Lake's office was exactly what you'd expect. Wood-paneled, filled with awards, warm smiles from a receptionist. Darius walked in without knocking. Lake looked up from his desk. "Darius?" he said, standing. "I didn't know you had an appointment." "I don't." Lake's smile faltered. "Then, what brings you here, son?" "I know about the Ravens," Darius said quietly. "I know about Crowley, and I know about Jamal." Lake sat down slowly. "You should be careful what you think you know." "I'm not thinking," Darius said. "I heard Jamal's last call, and your number showed up in a sealed FBI file. You were feeding Crowley, feeding the gangs. You used Jamal. You let him walk into that trap." Lake's expression hardened. "You think you're the only one who lost something? I built this city from the inside. I kept the peace by controlling the fire. Your brother wanted to burn it down. He wanted truth. He wanted chaos," Lake snapped. "Do you have any idea what would have happened if everything came out at once? Entire systems collapsing, blood in the streets. Sometimes the system survives because good people carry its sins." Darius stepped closer. "You don't get to call yourself good." Lake folded his hands. "And what now? You gonna kill me? Expose me?" "I don't need to," Darius said. "You already exposed yourself." He held up a small device in his and a recorder. Lake's eyes went wide. "You think you're the only one who knows how to bait a trap?" Darius said. The next day, the news broke. City councilman tied to gang network cover-up. Secret recording leads to arrest. Within hours, the city was in shock. Protests, investigations, resignations. But for Darius, it was something else entirely. Peace. A month later, it was a quiet afternoon at Bell Brothers Auto. Darius sat in his office, tinkering with a broken carburetor, when Natalie walked in holding a letter. "From the city," she said. "Looks important." He opened it. Inside was a formal notice. "Dear Mr. Bell, in light of your bravery, service to justice and sacrifice, the City Council has voted unanimously to name the new Youth Tech Center, the Jamal Bell Foundation. For truth." Darius didn't move, didn't speak. He just stared at the letter and let the tears fall. That night he visited Jamal's grave, kneeled down, placed the letter beside the headstone. "They finally know who you were," he whispered, "and I finally know who I am." He sat there until the sun dipped behind the trees, then stood and walked away, not with grief, but with something stronger: purpose. The end. Final message. This story wasn't just about betrayal or gangs or corruption. It was about truth, how even the smallest voice can change a broken system, and how justice sometimes takes time, but always leaves a mark, because in the end, one mechanic, one brother, one broken man stood up, and the world listened. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find what really matters.